So forgiveness is the key to happiness. Forgiveness is the key to happiness. Tell yourself, I will awaken from the dream that I am mortal, fallible, and full of sin, and know that I am a perfect child of God. So forgiveness is not some seeming magnanimous act where we see the sins and shortcomings of others and then say, oh, well, that's all right, they're just suffering. Or that's okay, I understand now, they had a hard childhood. I understand, you know, they've really had a rough time lately, and that's why, so it's okay. It's okay. Or they are doing the best they can with what they have. So they're doing the best they can with what they have right now. They're just sick. This is not forgiveness. This is us putting ourselves in a position up here and saying we're going to give a gift to someone down here. I know it seems kind, and I guess you'd say it's kinder than knocking them over the head. But it's not forgiveness. It's pardon. It's saying that even though you are less than, worse than, whatever, I'm just going to try to ignore it. I'm going to do my best to try to ignore it. I'm going to move on. And so this is the forgiveness that the ego wants to participate in. The problem is that it continues to hold us in conflict with others. This meditation that we just did comes out of the Course in Miracles, Lesson 121. Forgiveness is the key to happiness. It is an exercise that can be done over and over again. It's one actually that it's probably a good prescription for any time that we find ourselves upset with others or even upset with ourselves, is that we can begin with that. The idea was not to list the person's faults and things that they have done to us, but rather to see like this whole, I said, see the person in all their ugliness, right? But see a light starting to shine through. So the ugliness then that we would see is just an acknowledgement that this is the experience that we have been having with the person. Our experience with the person seems to be this bad behavior. Our experience with the person seems to be this fear-based stuff. And so the first thing that's necessary is to acknowledge that that really is what we're seeing. That, I mean, in the world, this is what we're observing. But then to actually, so now I have, as we talked about last week, now I have all of the greasy details right here. And it's interesting, they're all kind of jumbled up, and if we consider them one by one, we'll see that they keep adding on to each other, and but mostly they spin around and come back to the same basic idea that they're not doing what we think they should do, that they're not acting to us the way that we think they should, that, you know, we are, I guess we would say, we are being unfairly treated. And this is, of course, as we've said before, this is the main function that the ego sets itself to, is to show us all of the places where we are not being treated fairly. And so the victim, it's the victimhood. And here is actually when you, in the back of the Course in Miracles, in one of the appendixes, there's a section called the Ladder of Prayer. The Ladder of Prayer is a description of how to climb out of this place of being a victim. But in order to climb out of this place where we found ourselves as victims, we first of all have to find the correct ladder. We have to find, we could say we have to find a path that will work. And where the very foot of that ladder is to understand that we are where we are at right now as a direct result of everything that we have thought, said, done, or left undone up until now. In other words, to say this, the beginning of the ladder, the very bottom of the ladder is to recognize that we are not a victim, that we are responsible for our lives. Remember, I already said we're not in denial because we just looked at this person, or maybe more than one came to mind, but we just looked at this person and saw the deeds, the whatever it was, we saw the things that we thought that they had done to us, that we're holding against them. So we're not in denial of that experience, but what we are saying is that not that we're responsible that they did something to us, but that we're responsible for how we see it. And more important, we're responsible for what we do next. So things occur, things happen. Now I know it's kind of a hard stretch for us many times. This seems very concrete, and it's a very hard stretch for us to say to ourselves, well, really, I'm getting what I wanted. I'm getting what I asked for. And I don't mean that we want to be punished, we want to be hurt. What we want is to be able to maintain this perspective of being a victim. We want to actually be upset about being hurt. We want to be upset about being in these bad positions because it keeps the whole cycle going. So it's very interesting. The Course says that this whole thing's an illusion, that it never really happened, and even if you think it did happen, it's already been fixed. So it's all this stuff is already resolved, but we just are stuck at the bottom rung of victimhood. It's already been resolved. It's an illusion. It never really happened. We never really separated from God. All that stuff never really happened. We just think it happened. Now, this is really a good thing to come to this idea, to realize that this whole world that we have created is an illusion, and that our lives of victimhood, that's an illusion. That's a very important place to be. That's the place to start. Now we've got a beginning. So, and also to realize that what that means is if the world is an illusion and we are in the world, then we're an illusion. Then we're not here. I mean, we as individuals are not here. Now I want to think about this particular point in a couple of different ways. First of all, the ultimate way to realize it is that we are really back in the place where we were before the Big Bang and the creation of the universe seemed to have occurred. And in that place is what the Hindus call a state of total non-duality. A state of total non-duality, meaning that everything is one. Everything is one. There is no differentiation between you and I. We are all there, one together in this state before it all starts expanding outward. Now that's the literal interpretation. Many people believe that that's actually what the Course is teaching, but it's not important for us to have to buy into that all the way. This is what I believe. I'm just telling you. I believe that that's the case. However, just from a psychological standpoint, if we can just think about it very simply like this, we believe that we are not connected to the rest of life. We actually have a belief, I'm talking about just in the world in general, we have a belief that we are in competition with and in conflict with the rest of life. That it is competing with us for what we want, what we need, and may perhaps even take away from us that little which we have managed to gather together. This is the same concept. It's absolutely the same concept, except we're just taking it at the level of what apparently is going on. So what I'm saying here is, if we can come to the mental, if we can come to this acceptance of the fact that the way we view the world is incorrect. Let's say you don't want to go all the way and say the whole world is an illusion. At least get to the place where you can accept that the way you see the world is not correct. The way I see the world is not correct. I see the world as it's a dangerous place. I see the world that there's potential. Yvette, I heard you talking about it before we started, about your nervousness on the road. We see the world as a dangerous place. Why? Because we hear all the stories. We see on the news. And also, it's not very hard to observe people getting upset when they're driving their cars. Well, Ken Wapnick says, be kind. We're all fighting a hard battle. Because this is what's happening. Every single person out there on the road is fighting the same battle that we are. So, and what happens is, each one of us reacts to fear in different ways. Some of us react with fear with aggression. Some of us react with fear to running away and hiding. But it's all fear. Anything that's not us extending love is fear. We all do it differently. So the world appears to be dangerous. But we know, and again, not the level that the Course is talking about, but we know absolutely scientifically that in the world everything is connected. There's a web of life. There's a web of life. We're all connected whether we like it or not. And what we see in our apparent world is the result of us ignoring the fact that life is connected. And we think that we need to get whatever we want at the expense of the rest of life, which not only includes other people, our brothers and sisters, especially those that we think of as alien because we don't understand the culture, but it means the rest of life, meaning all animal life, all plant life. We are thinking we need to get ours, period, instead of interacting with the rest of life. We are fighting against the rest of life. And this is exactly what God told Adam. Until you return to me, you will have suffering. You will fight against the ground. It will not give up its food to you. Because this is why. Because forgot harmony. The whole event in the garden, which is just a symbol. It's not a true story. It's just a symbolic story. It's the idea that we separated ourselves from life, and so now we struggle with life. This is the bottom of the ladder. The recognition that it is our perception of the world that is not only causing our problems, but making us stay in our problems. So you can operate on either one of those levels, but what I believe is eventually we come to the level of realizing that truly let's say our safety lies in realizing that we are not bodies, but that we are spirit, and that we have never been separated into bodies, and that's just a dream, a movie, if you will, that we're having. But you don't have to believe that. You can still find happiness through forgiveness. So forgiveness then, and forgiveness is seeing things differently. Well, forgiveness doesn't work by just saying, well, that didn't really happen. I was at the Course in Miracles study group, and we read a passage in the book that said that this is all an illusion. So this thing that just happened to me, that's not real, so I'm just going to ignore it. It doesn't work. Because all we've done is we've shuttled it off to the side. It's going to come back later in uglier ways. So what we do is we acknowledge. We see, as it said in the meditation, see a vision, see this person who you're having a problem with. And remember, this person is just a symbol. Now, every time we do this meditation, I have never had anybody say that a picture of some specific person did not appear in their mind. They saw somebody. So, but that's not even the important thing. That person is just a symbol for everybody that you have a problem with, which means that person is just a symbol for everybody. Because the reason that the meditation takes the friend second. See, I used to think that what it should have done was take the friend first and then have you extend the light you see in your friend to your enemy. But the problem is the friend, you also have problems with the friend. Even though you think that this is your friend and you love them, you have problems with them. They did something to disappoint you. They didn't do something that you wanted them to do. And so what it says, take the person that you think you have the most problem with. See the light in them, and then give that light to your friend. And then realize that doing that, you give it to yourself. So, this is not absolution for things done. The Course actually says things aren't even done. again, this isn't denial. This is just saying in spirit, it's not happening. It's just happening in this world, right? So, okay. So, forgiveness then would say, I want to observe the stuff that I'm having this problem with, and then like carry it to the light and see that light then come through. So it says, it starts off with saying, just see if you can see a little bit of light in them. Well, this is a simple idea. Just think you can start with, can you see any good in them at all? Well, he must have had a mother. I mean, think of something. He must have been kind to someone sometime. Just think of one little thing and then allow that to grow. Now, it's important because the Course is really not saying let's talk about specific things, but we can begin there with this idea and see whatever good that you can find in that person, not as a deed, but actually as indication of the light in them. And this is just, your mind can do this. You can visualize whatever you want to visualize. So you see the person, and then you start to see the light grow until what really happens is you don't see the person's features or anything anymore. You just see the light. You just see the light, and this is the key. This is really the key to forgiveness. The key to forgiveness is forgetting all of the things that we remember about the person who we are holding the resentment against. Forgiveness is also forgetting all the details of all of the things that we're holding our regrets about. So then we see the person surrounded in light. We see the person as light. And then we transfer that light to our friend. Now, and then it tells us, see them both healed. You see them both healed. Not only just healed, you see them, they are one. And then notice how when they become one, you become one with them. Forgiveness is the key to happiness. Here's the answer to your search for peace. So here it's just flat out saying it. If you want to have peace of mind, you must forgive. You have to learn to forgive. You're not going to have peace of mind. It's not saying you have to forgive. It's saying if you want to be happy, if you want to have peace, you must forgive. So you can say, no, I'm not going to forgive. First of all, that person doesn't deserve my forgiveness. It doesn't have anything to do with that. What it has to do with is, do you think you deserve the forgiveness? So, but you don't have to. This is really important. You don't have to. I'm not trying to talk you into it. I'm just saying, it says this has to come before this. I have to forgive or I'm not going to have happiness. I'm going to have these brief, fleeting moments where I think I'm happy, but then I'm going to remember that stuff again. So, here's the key to meaning in a world that seems to make no sense. Here is the way to safety in apparent dangers that appear to threaten you at every turn, bringing uncertainty to all your hopes of ever finding quietness and peace. Here are all questions answered. Here the end of all uncertainty ensured at last. And then it goes to describe what happens if we decide, you know what, I don't deserve forgiveness. I have done, said, thought, all of these things, and really, I've done some stuff. You don't know because I don't want to tell you, because then you wouldn't want to have anything to do with me. But I have done some stuff, and you don't understand. So I really don't deserve forgiveness. And these people who have hurt me, they hurt me so deeply, was such a horrible thing. I was taken advantage of as we have all the scenarios. I was abused as a child. And I never asked for this to be born in the first place. So this is unforgivable. This is unforgivable, and I'm not forgiven. I'm going to hold my ground. By God, I'm holding on to this. I'll come hell or high water, and that's exactly what happens. Hell, separation, and drowning in upset. So, the unforgiving mind is full of fear and offers love no room to be itself. No place where it can spread its wings in peace and soar above the turmoil of the world. So now here's a vision that when love is allowed to grow, when the fear is put aside and love is allowed to grow. Here's a vision of us rising above the seeming danger that we're seeing every day in the world, which keeps the fear rolling. To soar above it. So this is the whole concept of that way we can keep our eye above the battlefield. The unforgiving mind is sad. This is what we get if we're unwilling to forgive. Sadness. The unforgiving mind is sad without hope of respite and release from pain. It suffers and abides in misery, peering about in darkness, seeing not, yet certain of the danger lurking there. The unforgiving mind is torn with doubt, confused about itself and all it sees, afraid and angry, weak and blustering, afraid to go ahead, afraid to stay, afraid to waken or to go to sleep, afraid of every sound, yet more afraid of stillness. Terrified of darkness, yet more terrified at the approach of light. What can the unforgiving mind perceive but its own damnation? What can it behold except the proof that all its sins are real, and everyone else's too? The unforgiving mind sees no mistakes. It sees no mistakes. It sees only sin. And when it says sin here, it means an indelible stain upon your soul. Something, it's not a mistake,